Good morning, everybody. This is Gurpreet Kaur and Tracy French Brown. Always have to say it.
I'm going to change it. I will when everybody's used to it.
Um, Thank you for tuning into our segment HR Uncut. This segment's all about HR. Today we're going to talk about how HR is not your bitch.
Right.
Pardon my language, but it's the best way to put it. Being in HR for 15 plus years. Tracy, you've been in HR
Going on 25.
25 years. Both can relate to the term HR is not your beep.
Yeah.
Because many companies throughout our careers, we have seen that many companies traditionally see HR as an admin, as a paper pusher, as policing company policies. You're the police, you're the bad person, you're the one that goes and deals with things when managers don't want to deal with it, and so on and so on. But times have changed. Maybe 20, 30, well, Tracy's been in it for 25 years.
Yeah.
So let's ask Tracy, because I remember my boss who was in it, my first boss who was in it, I think 20 years prior to when I started working with him. And at that time, it was called the people function, people admin, or I forgot what was the title.
We were actually called personnel at one time.
Yes,
Yeah, when I first
personnel.
started.
That's correct. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago, that's what it was. But over the years, it's totally has evolved. The function is HR is a business function. That's how I have always seen it, and throughout my 15 plus years of my career, I've never seen it as an admin. I've never seen it as policing. I don't police. Like, I got the best advice beginning of my career. So I don't police. I'm not the police. I'm not going to do your dirty work for you, managers. No. You got to do it yourself. And so this is what the topic has inspired us to talk on, because both of us been in HR long enough to know that we're not nobody's bitch. We are not your admin. We are not your executive assistants. We are not your assistants to do your paperwork or your dirty work. We are your business partners to help the business grow. Talent, like my slogan is, this is what I always tell companies: talent attraction plus talent retention equals company profits. And that's the sole heart of HR function, is to manage your number one asset, which is your people. So it's a business function, and any company that sees it, even in today's day and age, if you're still seeing HR as an admin function, you are truly losing out on making profits in your business. And not only that, you then really don't have the right HR person in the company. Maybe you do, but you're not utilizing them correctly. So let's kick off this segment. If you're tuned in live with us, let us know in the comment section who you are. If you're team live, just say live. If you replay, just say replay. And we are more than happy to answer any questions as well. So feel free to drop those in the comment section. So we're going to kick off this segment, how HR is not your beep, bitch, pardon my language. But I'm going to let Tracy take over, since she has the most experience than me in this.
No, I think this is a topic that I get really frustrated about. It would frustrate me early in my career, but it frustrates me even more now that I'm working in the consulting sort of realm. A lot of the companies that I work with, and I'm not an HR elitist. I don't think you have to have a lot of letters behind your name or have gone to like the best schools. I think some of the best HR people I've worked with came up through the operations. So I'm not necessarily an elitist. However, a lot of the organizations that I do work with have the tendency to undervalue the HR function. So by the time it's in place, it's either, they've grown exponentially and they need HR, but they don't have systems. So the HR person that they hire is legit an admin person that doesn't have the ability to direct the HR function because they just don't know how. So it's undervaluing the function. Or, it's a function that they want to bring in once they've had a problem and that, life has just exploded for them. And they're like, crap, I should have, had the right places or the right systems in place. So I think undervaluing the function from the offset really can put a company back. And then, when you realize the value and the power of having, a truly strategic HR person that's there to protect and mitigate risks for the organization, but also protect and, make sure that the employee experience and the employees are having, great relationships with the organization. When you get to see that in play and you realize, what was I thinking before? It's those aha moments. You can almost see the light bulbs go off with some of my clients. But more than that, even when, we're talking about, when I first came up through the ranks, was the personnel department, really filing was the biggest thing that we did. I was lucky, much like you. I got in with a really great HR manager back in the day, probably one of my first HR jobs, and she was tenacious. And I remember her saying to me, get yourself at the table. And when you get yourself at the table, make sure you got something of value to add. So she taught me a lot. And I think that really sparked my career, so that any place that I went, I made sure that I gave HR a seat at the table, even when the position was undervalued. So a lot of times I hear it from other HR professionals. Well, I work in this organization and, they don't want to hear from me, or they only come to me when they want me to plan a pizza lunch. And how frustrating is that? And then I think to myself, sure, the organization has it wrong. But guess what? You as sitting in that HR seat,
Yep.
You have the ability to change that narrative. And if you want things to be different, then you need to take control and you need to show the value that you have, because people just automatically assume that, and I know you and I've talked about this, and I think we're going to have a segment on it eventually, but HR is more than just a cost center. We add value, and if you're going to utilize us as true business partners, then I think the onus then is also on the HR person to make sure they can talk the finances, they can talk production, they can talk strategy, they understand the business, they understand the industry, they understand all of the problems that the organization is facing, so they can come to the table with real solutions. So I think it's sort of organizations are to blame for sure by undervaluing it, but then I also think as HR professionals we have the duty to make sure that we're pushing ourselves forward and showing the value that we have.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the seat on the table. So I've always had a seat on the table. I've never had to ask for it. I never had to demand it. And that's why I always believe that, you as an HR can determine what you want your role to be. If the company is undervaluing you, you're also allowing them to undervalue you, right?
Yep.
So if you can't turn that around and show them the value, you will not get the seat on the table. You won't get the seat on the table if they just see you as an admin, paper pusher that just does the day-to-day daily admin stuff for HR, paperwork and stuff. And you will not get the seat on the table. And your boss was correct, your first boss, to say, well, if you're going to get the seat on the table, you got to add value, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming onto the seat of the table. And I've seen this typically in many HR. I've seen this throughout my career where some HR, not all, I've seen majority of my career, many HR professionals see themselves as the admin, like someone that's policing the policies, someone who's there to say, no, you can't do this. And guess what? If you're the one that keeps coming into meetings and negatively saying, that's a negative approach, saying no. Guess what? Who wants someone to come into meetings who just always saying no, and you're not adding value by saying no. And the true way to add value is to be a business partner, be the consultant. You are the internal consultant in the organization, and you're supposed to approach the role as the internal consultant who's there to give them pros and cons. And ultimately, decision is left to the decision maker. So if I'm working with the hiring, like say a manager, ultimately the decision's up to that person to do what they want to do in the end. Let's say it's an employee relation issue. My job is to weigh out the pros and cons with them and do strategic planning with them and give them the options. And if you take this option, here's the pros and cons. If you take it this way, here's the pros and cons. What do you really want to do though? What's the goal? What's the end goal that you want to achieve? If this is the end goal you want to achieve, here's my suggestions. But also, hey, legally, here's what we need to do too. So there's a legal component. I believe you can't be a strong HR person if you don't know the laws. So right. I that's why my whole take on designations is because they don't even cover the law. Like, to be a strong HR business partner and you really want to be seen more than the admin function, then you need to know the legal component of the day-to-day stuff.
Mhm.
And typically, you brought up the cost stuff. HR is a business function. I've always seen as a business function. That's what I try to educate any client that I've worked with. The true value. Do they get it? No. Is it my job to explain it? Yes. Can I show them? Yes. If they still don't get it, that's when you cut your losses.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you do have a choice. Who do you want to be as an HR professional and what you want the function to be? And any company that keeps giving you an uphill battle on it, that company truly doesn't understand or recognize the value. And it's not your job to keep going battling with them. That's when you draw a healthy line and say,
Mhm.
okay, I gotta go look for another job or a consulting client. I've done that with clients. I've drawn the line. Like, I'm not gonna be your paper pusher. I'm not gonna be your company police person. I'm not gonna be
Mhm.
police. I'm not gonna be doing this. I'm not gonna do the dirty work that you don't want to do. I'm not gonna do any work that you don't want to do, because as managers, you are managing people, and that's part of your role. That's not HR's job to come manage your people for you. It's your job. And I'm a support consultant to help you excel as a manager and make sure the employees are excelling and empowering the employees.
Mhm.
But in the end of the day, if I see that my value is not being appreciated and the company can't truly see the value in HR, which sadly is
Mhm.
the case in many organizations, that's when I cut my losses, because it's just not worth the battle. I've also worked in organizations that see the value in HR, and it's
Mhm.
amazing experience. So there's so many things to go around about this, but I truly believe, any company that treats HR like their admin, which is kind of like I call it the admin, like, you're basically seeing them as the bitch person that does all the dirty work for you. Admin, paper pushing, you truly then are undervaluing how important the HR function is to the overall growth of your business to then make profits.
Yep. And I've worked in such a plethora of different kinds of industries. And I've worked in talking about, the people policing and the policy policing. I've worked with not I kind of worked on the peripheral, but with an HR manager who was honestly probably one of the most negative people that I've ever encountered in the whole of my career. Just she was extremely policing on policies, didn't ever want to give any. If a policy said X, you did X. If the company needed to do Y, she couldn't ever get you from X to Y. She was just always in front saying no, no, no. She was like that with the managers. She was like that with employees. So if employees needed a little bit of leeway, it was always laying the hammer down. And I'm going to tell you, the poison in that workplace was palpable. And it was interesting because the corporate head office as a whole, she had tenure there, and I think at the end of the day, they would rather just sort of deal with it. It was horrible, and when you see those types of things happening, and the erosion then that you have from your employees because of that, and then the erosion that you start to have with the management team, they start to push HR out, and because they'll figure out a way of getting things done. So that lessens your, sort of your effect on the organization. If you're always going to be policing and you're not there to be cooperating, like you said, sure, we've got to come to the table and say things like, you can't do this or you shouldn't do this. But ultimately, if once you know the risks and you want to go ahead with it, then, good luck. But then on the flip side of that, I've also been associated with organizations where honestly, the only time the CEO came to the HR office was to ask HR, the manager, to order lunch. To order lunch. That was, and I remember pushing back huge. Like, no, that's not the only function we do here. Only to be told, well, it's an employee function and you need to order pizza. And I'll tell you, I put my foot down. I said, the HR manager is not ordering pizza. Like, I don't mind helping out. We're all on one team. But if that's the only thing you see her for, I have pushed my way into production meetings and been told, we don't need HR here. We don't want you here to tell us what we can't do. And, operations doesn't have anything to do really with HR. And I remember pushing back saying, you may not need me today, but I need you every day. I need to understand your pain points. I need to understand the issues. That makes me a better business partner. Eventually those relationships, you get those inroads, and those relationships start to build trust, and then they start to see value because you're coming to the table with more than just you can't and I'm going to order pizza for the place. So I think, like you said, the onus is on us to make sure that we're providing that value. And not be afraid. I worked with an HR person in the past who knew her stuff, but was so afraid of going up against her boss, that she, like the leadership, that she would just constantly, if they said jump, she'd say how high, and knowing that what she was doing was wrong, and just not having the confidence to push back. And I think, we have onus on ourselves, like you said, to say, hey, this is the right thing to do. I know what I'm talking about. And, if the company doesn't value that, then yeah, move on.
Yeah. But even like, just you brought us some great points, like, the production, you made yourself available and showed up
I
to the
did.
production meetings even when they were giving you pushback.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I found a lot of times, is that you have to rebrand the image of HR,
Mm-hmm.
right? Employees tend to see HR as the police, someone who's just hammering on you, you can't do this. Management team is seeing you the same way too, that it's HR is going to tell us no, HR is going to tell us we can't do this, right? So you become this bad person that just says no all the time. And that's when you fall into the admin category, and not really the strategic business partner that the role truly is and
Mm-hmm.
has become. And the key to that is, like, it's the same similar situation. I remember I was replacing somebody on a mat leave, and I was supposed to take over this person's role while she was on mat leave. And that was her image in the organization, was she wasn't very welcoming person or approachable, in a sense that she was very like by the book. This is the policy, this is what we got to do, right? And then the director, which was the dotted line to, is a manufacturing company. So you had a dotted line. Your business partner is your director. Yes, you reported into the HR at the head office, but you also dotted line to the director, your business partners, to run the facility. But that was your image. And just imagine me, the new person. I'm like, oh my God, like they don't get along. So I honestly thought that was my first really eye-opening, how important relationships and how you as an individual in the role is. So I'm new, training under her to take over her. I automatically right away just assumed that the director has an issue with HR as a position, not the person in it. I thought it was the position and him are clashing. But he was very good in the sense that he brought me into the office, sat me down and said, hey, you're going to be taking over. This person's leaving in, let's say, a couple of days. You're going to be taking over. I don't want you to sit there and feel that I have clashing issues with the role. That's not it. I just don't get along with this person that you're replacing. Here's why. And I don't want that to impact our relationship going forward. So he did the most smart thing to do, is sit me down, talk to me, to give me a clear understanding. And he wanted to have a good relationship with me, wants to start on a good note, but he didn't want me being influenced by what's happening with them to make an assumption that it's the role and him that are clashing.
Yeah.
That's when I quickly learned, after the person left, long story short, I quickly learned that it wasn't the role that people were clashing with. It was the person in it who never made themselves open, available, or approachable, not even to the employees, showed up into the production. She actually got X out of the production meetings. And me, on the other hand, the director said, I want you to end the production meetings every single day. And I started showing up. How did I show up is the key, right? How you show up to these meetings is the key. If I showed up the same way this person was, where I'm telling them no, 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 I'm not adding value to them. I'm not a business partner. I'm basically telling them they can't do something. I'm just chopping off their arms and legs to run an operation. My job isn't no, no, no. My job is, okay, if this is what we want to do, let's figure out how to do it, as well as be in compliance with the law.
Yes.
Let's not be breaking the law.
Right.
Because you don't want the fines, right? Showing up to those meetings, one, obviously you get to understand the pain points, you understand the business, how the business runs, what you need. Second is, because we are people management function, we know the talent inside out. We are also able to predict, while being in those meetings, what type of training is lacking, what type of training we need to develop, what type of workforce we need. Okay, if the business is growing, if we keep getting, like, it's a production meeting, you get to see the orders coming in. Do we have enough manpower? No, we got a plan, right?
Mhm.
Who do we need to hire? How many problems where I was able to, and it's not even problems, identify pain points while they're talking from my subject matter expertise, right? They're
Yes.
not the subject matter expertise in people training and all that stuff. I'm sitting there saying, okay, I think we should do this. We should do this. But beyond that, I was able to just even share ideas from just for the business, nothing
Mhm.
to do with HR. And
Yep.
guess what? You add value
Yes.
that way. You become a true business partner.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think the frustration I hear a lot from, my operations counterpoints or finance, anybody in the business, a lot of HR people will say, I just want you to understand HR and you just need to do better with HR. But very rarely do they come across HR people who will go into finance and say, okay, help me understand this and cost centers or whatever the case may be, or go to any aspect of the business to really learn it and understand it. Because I think that's how you grow partnerships too, is by understanding the other functions. And then also on the flip side of that, kind of what you said, when you're dealing with employees and the employees see you as just this negative no person all the time, who they get sent to, like, when I go into the principal's office, I only get sent up there if there's bad news, and I only hear from HR when there's bad news. I mean, you do have to sort of reshape how people think. And I know in my production days, because I've got lots of manufacturing background, I was out on those production floors daily. Like, I just got to know people. I cared because I truly do care. But you have to make your presence known so that you're out there as more than just an entity that sits in a room somewhere. So I think we have to build those relationships. And kind of wanted to touch on something too. I have found over the years that most of the HR folks that have the, tendency to just rule by policy really don't have solid, good experience. And I think what happens is they get trapped in these policies and they're verbatim with policies because they don't understand the nuances and the different things that you can do, and how you can truly partner. Like you said, if the business wants to do something, how do we get them there? And what are things that we can do? A policy might say this, but I always say policies may be black and white, but people and businesses operate in the gray. So you need
to like policies.
I hate them too. Oh, I'm so anti-policy. It actually gets annoying. I'm sure with
a
some
guideline. I see it as like a guideline, but it's not your Bible. It's not black and white. It's not. We're dealing with people, and people are never black and white. Each situation is unique. Each situation is unique, and production. I love you go out on the production floor. I had a great role model right from the get-go of my first position. My boss, who did that every single day. It was manufacturing. He did it for both shifts. We had a morning shift and afternoon shift. So let's say he showed up at 8 in the morning. First thing he did was put his stuff down out on the floor, saying good morning to everybody, going on production. So I started noticing he's doing that. And then he did the same for the afternoon shift. I'm like, why do you do that? Like, I just like, oh, you go for tours. Like, yeah, talk to people and X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come with you one day. I just want to see what's happening. What is he doing? And as I started going with him, how many people were able to come and just talk to him and say, and he was able to, what I noticed was he was able to troubleshoot problems right on the spot.
Right. Yeah.
And they're not being escalated, and we were union. So the union doesn't need to get involved. That you're able to, address the concerns or take it up. Okay, I'm going to bring it to the table to my next meeting, whatever. You're able to troubleshoot problems faster. Plus you're visible. That means you're approachable.
Yes.
Especially in manufacturing. Why should the employee on the production floor have to take time out of their production time to come speak to you? You should be able to be approachable and available. You can solve a lot of problems. And also, if people see you as, approachable, you guys sit there and ask yourself why. It's probably because you're sitting behind the desk.
Right. Or your door is always closed. Or I've worked with HR people where, and some of them have been my generalists over the years, where any employee would want to come in and see them. And they acted like, I'm busy. I can't deal with you right now. You're in the people business. This is your job. Like, I understand we get busy, but, you can't treat people like they're a bother to you. But I think,
and you're in the wrong function, right?
Right. But I think we do get buried as being, an over glorified, sort of administrative function, simply because in some companies, there's just a lack of understanding of what that job can actually do. And I find sort of getting back to some of the clients that I work with and some of the smaller organizations that I work with, it becomes a lesser valued function, like I said before, until it becomes a needed function because something bad has happened. Or, you know, it's there's something starting to fall, whether it's recruiting, I can't recruit, I can't get people, I can't retain them. You know, I have a harassment claim, I'm having safety issues. Then all of a sudden, HR becomes really important. And then what's happening is then you're backpedaling like crazy, trying to get systems in place. You know, like I think it, yeah, right.
Went up, right?
Yeah, it's amazing to me. And then
you brought up something important. You said you said something about HR, like some of them from your experience really couldn't make the function more. I forgot exactly what you said. And I just wanted to touch on before you continue was the fact that many HR don't have the capability to make it more is also because they don't truly understand business.
Exactly.
It is a business function, right? So if you're just seeing the function as policies, employee, like hiring, and that's why people just see you as hiring and firing.
Yeah.
It's because the reason you can't add value is if you don't truly understand the operation, the business as a whole, and how each department adds to the whole of the business, and then which equals company's profits, then you're always going to be someone's go-to bitch for admin. Order pizza, can you do this, right? Then you are the admin because that's your capabilities, which again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but then we got to stop playing the victim game. Well, companies don't value HR, but you don't truly value the position or the function of what it is. I think to truly be a successful HR, and hence the other reason why I don't believe in the designations, is because you can't be a good HR business partner if you don't truly understand how businesses are run.
Yep. Agreed.
That's
100%.
simple.
100%. I think it's ignorant and naive to think that you're an island all to yourself in HR and that you can go around telling everybody what they need to do if you don't understand the business. Nobody wants to hear from you if you can't listen to and understand quality issues. If you can't understand the root of the quality issues, then how do you start to train on that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, I think you really got to understand the whole. And I'm telling you, I have made it sort of my mantra to make sure that I know everything that I need to know about any organization that I'm working with, including competitors, industry issues. I mean, you've got to immerse yourself. Otherwise, you'll become an island of, you know, the pizza orderer, you know.
But that's the true point, right? Like quality rework. You know, every piece of product that has quality defects now has to be remade, or something has to be done to it. Rework, right? Yeah. That's a cost. Yeah. That's a cost. And if it keeps happening, you know, that's what the production meetings are great for, because the ones I've attended, there's everybody, right? Quality, material handler, material person, and production people, supervised team leaders, we're all there. And as you listen to people, okay, quality person saying this is how many reworks we had today or yesterday, well, you got to sit there and say, well, why? Right? Now I'm sitting and say, well, okay, why do we have this many reworks? What was the main cause? What's the root cause of the issue, right? And if it's is it a training? Okay, if it's a root cause, is this person didn't do it properly? Okay, let's look at the individual now. Does he need training? Right? You're right there solving the problems in that meeting by saying, okay, if it's a one-off thing, that's a different story. But if it constantly keep happening, you're in the meeting to know, okay, this person, well, this is not the first time they had this issue. I think this person lacks training. We need to look at retraining. Maybe we need to do a whole refresher, right? There's nothing wrong. Like, that's how you add value to the business. And bottom line is, business is in the business to make profits, right? They're there to make money. And if you're not making money, you're out of a business. That's where people start losing jobs. And HR, if you don't understand the bottom line and all you understand is that we got to follow policies, then guess what? There's the door and leave, because you're really not adding any value, and you're always going to be that admin. But true value in HR is when you understand the bottom line is we need to make money, we need to make profits. Well, how do we do this? One, we need to retain talent, and two, we need to have the right people come work for us. We need to retain the talent and the retention piece, right? Like both of them go hand in hand. We can talk forever on this.
Oh,
30
yes.
I'll hop on. So in short summary, Tracy, your ending remarks.
Well, I think just for my ending remarks, I think that I would love to see organizations, especially when you're starting out as a startup, is to, you want to make sure you have your operations, marketing, HR. Don't wait until you have 30, 40 people before you think, oh, I need HR. Once you start hiring people, get some HR systems, make sure they're scalable, and invest in that part of your business, because the biggest asset you have are your people. So I think that HR needs to be elevated. I think to my HR counterparts, I think that it's about time that, if you are feeling like you're not being taken seriously and you are, somebody's bitch, take it upon yourself to do the necessary things to make yourself more valuable. And don't just sit back and complain all the time. Be assertive and grab onto the role that you want to hold on to there.
Yeah. My last ending remarks, just to add on and build on to what Tracy said, you can only add value if you truly understand the business. So get involved with the business, understand each business operation, how it operates, how it runs. That's the only way you can truly add value. Also, it's the only truly way to understand what is needed in talent perspective, and then how to retain talent. If you truly understand each function of the business, that will make you a rock star, superstar HR person that you can be. And again, the onus is always on you. And any company out there that truly doesn't understand the HR function, I challenge you to first take a step back and really try to understand the modern HR function that it is today. And it is a business function. It is a strategic function. My advice to startups: please stop hiring one HR person, glorify it to be a director or head of HR, and then it's only one person, and truly what it is, you're making it into an admin function. So any startups and startup companies, growing companies, small organizations, you need to see it as a business function. And then if you're hiring someone as a head or VP of HR, that person needs support. That's why you need the HR admin to hire.
Yes,
I see this all the time. In
Mhm.
startups, they have head of HR, you're the chief of this, but it's just a standalone role. And how is this person supposed to do a strategic role and then do the day-to-day HR function, right? The two roles are separate and they need to be separate. On this note, we're going to end the segment. We'll be back next week with another great topic on HR Uncut. HR Uncut happens every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and it's a 30-minute segment. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.